Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Noemí Rodríguez. I have been in education for the past 20 years. I'm so excited that you all reached out and you wanted to find out a little bit more about me. To give you additional background information, I have been in New Jersey all of my life, but my grandparents are in Spain. I still have both of my grandmothers there. So my roots are actually from Galicia, España. And I have been in language education, as I shared previously, for about the past 20 years. I'm currently on maternity leave, which is why it was hard for me to connect with you all at a time that you were in class because I would have my daughter with me. She's 13 months right now. I am in the education sector teaching language, but I also have a reading specialist certification. I went back to school to become a reading specialist. I also, in my current role that I'm on maternity leave from, I'm in a supervisory position, excuse me, and I oversee world language, ESL, music, and family and consumer science in a regional high school district in northern New Jersey. I graduated from Rutgers University, and that's also where I obtained my two master's degrees, one in language education and the second in reading as a reading specialist. And I've always been fascinated by technology. I've always appreciated how technology can help us learn languages and help us practice. So when I came across what generative AI can do a little over a year ago, I was just incredibly fascinated by its capabilities, its potential, its application to the language classroom. So I'm going to try my best to answer some of the questions that you posed. Some of them are applicable to me as an educator and slash now business owner. I opened up a consulting business while I've been home with my daughter in an effort to continue to support teachers, but also still be home with my daughter. So I see here that there's many great questions about AI related to the promises that are held potentially or possibilities, right? So I think in education, depending on everyone's comfort level, right? Because some teachers are definitely more willing to dive right in, whereas others need a little bit more time to understand and practice. Um, I would question you all back and ask how you're using artificial intelligence as students and how long you've been using artificial intelligence, and if you would be open to having those dialogues with your teachers who are maybe potentially a little bit resistant or not as open to it. I know in my personal life as well, ChatGPT has been very helpful when we're stuck on what to make for dinner and we plug in all of the different things and items that we have in our refrigerator, and voila, we have three healthy, easy to create recipes at our fingertips thanks to ChatGPT. So personally, it's been quite nice to use it for those little hacks here and there. And then professionally, understanding that we as teachers are looking for leveled content for our students and reading materials that are engaging, as well as circling back to the authenticity of the culture that we're studying and really being able to analyze perspectives, practices, and products of the target culture. I think a tool, for example, like diffit.me or Brisk Teaching, or magicschool.ai has the potential to create these leveled readings that are culturally appropriate and engaging for our students, which make our jobs as teachers a little bit easier, knowing that we can have tiered readings for a multitude of different reading levels in our classes. So that's something that I know as a reading specialist too, I struggled with creating prior to discovering generative AI. And now that I have it, it's very easy to design a prompt that is going to cater to what it is that I'm looking for with that. Another really great aspect of using generative AI I found is on the one-on-one feedback. So if I'm looking for feedback with something that I've written recently or if I'm looking for spoken, feedback based on the language that I've produced. I really like the different voice capabilities that comes with generative AI. I know a year ago, pronunciation-wise, it wasn't as good, but I can see how these tools are getting better and better, and really learning and adapting and pronouncing things correctly and helping us as language learners grow in our abilities has been really interesting to kind of witness on the sidelines, and to see teachers design different spaces and different chats thanks to platforms like Mizzou and also platforms like School AI, which I like those two platforms because they protect our students' privacy. So that's something that's also very near and dear to my heart, is to make sure that our students are protected, their data is not exposed to everyone that's on the internet, right? As much as we can keep things private and keep things protected, I like these websites that don't really require much identifiable information on behalf of our students. And the teacher, who is obviously the adult, is the one who is controlling and is able to create the login and to provide any sort of identifiable information on their end. So those two platforms that I just mentioned with regards to chatting and conversing and getting feedback, I have appreciated that they're open, right? Class Companion, I've seen as a written feedback tool, but it does require students to identify themselves, create accounts and whatnot. So I kind of go back between I like the ones that don't require anything from our students, and I especially like the tools that are free of charge. So then that way we as teachers can keep playing and experimenting and not feel like we're locked into any particular subscription. I have found that artificial intelligence as a business owner has also been helpful with coming up with social media marketing strategies and ideas for posting to target the education community. I've used it here and there. I've stayed kind of true to my own voice and expressing my thoughts on social media. I haven't relied on it as often as I thought I would, but here and there, I've definitely used it just to get some inspiration and just to get some brainstorming. It's been helpful for me to have really like a thought partner, or in some cases, as I've shared, a personal assistant to assist me with some of these social media posts that I'm like stuck. I'm not sure really what to write. And then I'm like, oh, let me ask a tool like ChatGPT or Gemini for some suggestions. I do actually too. I'm finding more and more my preference is with Gemini as my LLM versus ChatGPT. Even though ChatGPT now is open, it doesn't require an account anymore as it did before. So that makes me feel that it's more accessible to our students, which is a good thing. It doesn't require any sort of personal identifying information, which is also good. But I wonder, of course, with any tool, right, the power in it, if we can harness it for good. And unfortunately, I've seen some cases kind of spring up where generative AI has not been used with good intention, and has not been used responsibly by students or adults. So that's concerning too to see. But I guess with anything in life, right, there's going to be good and there's going to be sometimes bad, unfortunately. And knowing kind of how to navigate that and how to advise against that is important. And then potentially setting consequences at the school level. I know a lot of schools are having conversations about what does the use of generative AI look like in the class community, whether we're allowing for generative AI to be used, or we're saying, no, absolutely not. We want everything to come from your mind with this particular assignment. So those are conversations that I'm starting to have with educators and administrators here, mostly in the United States, and just trying to get a sense of what everyone feels comfortable with. The word pilot, right? The word to test things out and to try things out, that has been ongoing here, especially with a lot of these schools that have been a little bit resistant and just really not sure, right? There's a lot of fear in the unknown. And I think once people can see and use some of these tools, they'll start to feel more comfortable and hopefully more confident in their use and for their application with the classroom in mind. I'm looking at your questions again. Let's see. I don't think artificial intelligence can replace us as people. I think that we are uniquely social beings. I think that we always um, need to be around others. I think it's good for our mental, our social, our emotional well-being to connect with other people, especially physically, right, in person. I think if the pandemic taught us anything, it was that we really need one another and we really rely on connectivity. Um, and with regards to language learning, for example, I think languages evolve thanks to people. And I think that we keep languages flourishing and changing and evolving. And it's thanks to us, not a machine, that languages have changed over decades, right? The English that I'm speaking to you now is not the same English that it was 100 years ago, nor 50 years ago, right? So there's key phrases and words that will come up thanks to us, the humans that are using the language. So I think that's something really important to consider with the future in mind. As incredible as these tools are, I think that we as individuals are still very important as it continues to learn and grow. Um, I do see this technology changing how we learn language in that we are customizing and individualizing the language learning process. I'm very excited to see that if I have a room of 25 students, right? How can AI assist me as the facilitator of the class and really the individual who's keeping everyone hopefully moving in the right direction with their language growth in mind? But then can AI step in and assist my students one-on-one and give them feedback, give them tips, give them suggestions? Whereas me meeting, right, with 25 individual students is going to take some time. It's not impossible, but it's going to take some time. So the immediacy of that feedback and that one-on-one interaction is very, um, I think, captivating because here as the classroom teacher, I'm always trying to reach and connect with each individual student. And now I have this tool that can help me to do that. So although it doesn't replace me, it can act as almost like a co-teacher in that it'll individualize, right, what it's sharing with that particular student. And then me as the facilitator, again, I can see kind of on the back end, okay, they were able to talk about this really well, or I need to work on this student with this point because the AI feedback was suggesting that this is something that we need to continue to work on. So right there, I become hopefully, right, a more efficient educator thanks to this technology working with me and helping me to help my students become better and better with their language abilities. Looking back at your questions, let's see. I do think there's a lot of positives. I think the positives outweigh the negatives, but that's my opinion. I am excited to see how all of this advances. I came across a few weeks ago a tool that can make music, can make any song in any language, and I just thought, wow, like this is really incredible that it can make a tune about anything in any language. So here's like a really neat tool that we can use in language instruction, right? If we want to hone in on some phrases, a topic, a theme, right? We can use this tool. It's called Suno.ai, Suno.ai. But again, I thought that was just so cool how it can help us, again, as language teachers. And I guess for me personally, I'm always looking at the positive. That's just in my, I guess, who I am as an individual. But let me see if there's anything else that I can answer. Um, of course, yes, it does make me a little nervous sometimes that it can listen to me and it can learn me, and sometimes it acts a little too smart, right? Some of the answers that it provides, I'm like, wow, like this sounds incredible. Like I can use parts of this, right? Or this is a really thoughtful response. Let me use aspects of this in my own response, but then still let me curate something with my voice, with my mind, to still own what it is that I'm sharing or putting out there. I have not yet used artificial intelligence to create my presentations or my slideshows. I still want to have, I guess, that ownership in that process and that design. So although I've looked at different artificial intelligence presentation tools, I have not yet found one that can do it, I guess, as well as I can. So that's something that I'm sure will continue to change and evolve with time. But for now, something that feels so personal to me that I still want to do, right? I'm going to continue to do because I feel for me too, that's something that I put a lot of time and energy into to make sure that it's the best possible slideshow for the teachers, for the administrators, for whomever it is, students that I'm working with. And I do hyperlink a lot of things and include a lot of information because that's just my style. That's who I am. And yes, AI will continue to evolve very quickly. I like the image of the child who's squirting themselves in the face with the hose because it's just, sometimes you just can't keep up. And it makes more sense to experiment and learn and try tools that will be helpful for you in whatever it is that you're doing, and then kind of living in that land and maybe dipping your toe here and there. But it depends on you and your comfort level and what it is that you're interested in doing and exploring. I feel like things pop up all the time. Things are being changed on the daily basis with a lot of these AI tools. And I know that with everything that we're doing with generative AI, the prompt is really the most important thing, or thing to learn how to do well. So if there's any piece of advice that I could give to all of you is that you get very descriptive and narrative and informational in your prompt that you tell AI, whatever that tool is that you're looking for it to do. And by being as descriptive as possible and informative as possible, hopefully the outcome will also lend itself to what you're looking for. I do also want to mention that for students, Canva here in the United States is free. The premium subscription access with a school email address. So I'm not sure if that's the case where you are. Hopefully it is. But Canva is definitely a space that knowing what I know about AI, if I just learn how to use Canva really well, especially with digital marketing and all of the different tools, AI-powered tools and apps that are embedded within that website, that's potentially a really great place to start if you're looking to experiment and play and design with artificial intelligence. So I apologize if I was not as explicit with some of your questions and I didn't potentially respond to every single one, but I hope this gives you a good overview of some of my knowledge related to generative AI. In the future, I would love to connect with you all. I would love to hear from you and how you're using generative AI as students and what you're thinking about with the future in mind, where you think all of this is going, and how potentially you as students, your role is evolving as learners, and how generative AI can help you grow and better understand all of the different subjects and potentially learning a language, right? I hope to hear from you, and thank you again for taking the time to ask these thoughtful questions. And I hope our paths cross again in the future. Wishing you all the best, and thank you again from New Jersey.